afternoon, everyone. Our first speaker is Eva Cabaca. Eva holds a Master's of Education degree and is a practicing certified and registered nutritional consultant practitioner. She is a graduate of the Institute of Holistic Nutrition from 1998, and she has been teaching with the school ever since. She brings a blend of traditions and skills to her practice and teaching. She is a certified herbalist, and she also has a professional background in pharmacognosy, holistic nutrition, and herbology. She holds a diploma in honors in natural health counseling and in applied holistic nutrition. Eva has been devoted to yoga and to spreading the knowledge of healthy vegetarian living, including simple, whole living, spirituality, and care for the environment.
Eva is also an active member of the Toronto Vegetarian Association and the Canadian Natural Health Association, alongside her recipes and articles published regularly in Lifelines and the TVA newsletter. Eva teaches holistic food preparation, nutrition and the environment, and herbal medicine at the Institute of Holistic Nutrition's North York, Toronto, and Mississauga campuses.
Okay, let's welcome Eva Cabaca.
Beautiful, wonderful. First of all, I would like to celebrate the beautiful broad vision of the perspective of holistic healing and medicine that the IHN brings, and therefore that we have the opportunity to actually experience herbal medicine course in the program. And second, and probably more important for today, because we have beautiful sunshine, beautiful weather here in Southern Ontario, we are going to celebrate nature itself. Because we are going to celebrate the fact how beautiful it takes care of our bodies and how beautifully and elegantly balances our bodies with the immune system that we all possess. So if we ever experience any kind of fear around infections, we have to remind ourselves that the wisdom of our body knows exactly how to take care of us. But first of all, we need to know how to take care of ourselves consciously as well. So I needed to remind you today of very important dietary components right before we actually slip into the herbal medicines. So first of all, balancing inflammatory pathways, a very important concept, because when there is inflammation in the body, inflammation means impairment of communication. Inflammation means stagnation, swelling, and in that scenario, actually, the immune cells cannot communicate with the rest of the body effectively, and they are not as mobile and agile as they could be, and therefore all that can really drastically influence the health of the body, the terrain that we sometimes say. So that's very important. How do we do that practically? Well, we definitely consume the best quality foods we can find. We also consume a lot of healthy fats, omega-3 fats, and a lot of people have heard of EPA and DHA fatty acids, which are directly building our cell membranes and making sure that there's no stagnation in the body. And then, of course, we need to focus on good protein intake in our diet as well. And of course, we have to avoid all kinds of foods that are going to be pro-inflammatory in the system, including, of course, all the white poisons that everybody knows, I'm sure, which is white sugar, white flour, white fat, white salt, and all that, all those processed ingredients that actually should have been removed from our food systems a long time ago, but unfortunately for convenience and commerce and all that, they are still in the food system, unfortunately. And of course, we have to pay attention to various drugs that we influence our bodies with, and various heavy metals that we may be exposed to through our water and again through our diet. And we also have to be very vigilant about these modern processing agents, those various gelling agents, mucilages, gums, and other things that actually come into our diet. Then, of course, we have to make sure that we reduce oxidative stress on the body as much as possible. And that means that we are going to really focus on taking in a lot of antioxidants. A lot of people have heard about vitamin C and how important that is for cold and flu prevention. And absolutely, vitamin C is one of the best antioxidants. And of course, it's an antioxidant, and it also is a great anti-inflammatory agent, and it also stimulates the function of the immune cells. We also have to really pay attention to reducing oxidative stress as we are preparing our foods. It's very important to pay attention to processes that are high heat and that create what we call advanced glycation end products. And these are very toxic substances that some people generate in their kitchens every single day when they are frying or cooking things in fat. So that should be completely eliminated or at least reduced. And then the third dietary strategy that's going to definitely help to boost healthy immune system is harmonizing the gut microbiome. And it's been said many times since the microbiome has been actually all uncovered to the view that the bacteria in the gut are very much implicated in building our strong immunity, because about 80% of the immunity does reside in the gut, for obvious good reasons, because we are exposed to various pathogens through the diet, and therefore we have to make sure that these influences are checked right at the first level of contact without these pathogens actually being allowed to enter the inner environment of the body. So we definitely have to support these bacteria with good fiber intake, and of course the sources of proteins and vitamins and minerals, so that they can optimally function for us as best as they can. And the diversity in the gut is very important, and we have heard much about that as well. And therefore, we really want to embrace diverse diet. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now so that I can now show you some of the very important herbs that we consider for balancing the immune system. And we really have to make sure that we are going to focus on two different approaches. Just here we have a reminder how complex our immune system is. And I have to yet again remind you that we need to trust nature. Trust nature that it is able to take care of ourselves if we do our part. The do our part is very important in that whole picture. So we have our inner immune system, our inner nature. And then, of course, we have the nature outside of us, which is able to support us profoundly as well. So we use deep immune tonics for prevention. And that, of course, is very important. So we already talked about the diet and those various antioxidants and vitamins and minerals that are also very important considering prevention. But here we also have these deep immune tonics that can be very powerful allies to boost the abilities of our immune system. So they affect the immune system on a deep level. by influencing immune function largely because they influence those sites that we have seen, the bone marrow, the spleen, the thymus, that are involved in generation, production of our immune cells. And they also communicate with the central nervous system because we now understand that there is a profound connection between the nervous system, the hormonal system, and the endocrine and the adrenal system as well. And we call it psychoneuroimmunology, or sometimes even psychoneurohormonal immunology. All these systems are profoundly connected. So when we use these deep immune tonics, we actually profoundly strengthen all these communication pathways. So these herbs that I'm going to show you produce a gradual, however long-lasting improvement in immune function. So how should we take them? We actually take them preventively 3 to 4 times a day, and we take them in the recommended dose. They can be used for a long period of time to actually achieve that deep tonifying effect in the body. So we really talk about at least 1 to 3 months. So it's a good idea to actually start taking these deep immune tonics at the beginning of the cold season. So about now, or perhaps a month ago, would have been probably the best strategy. But starting taking them now would be actually very, very smart because we are going into the cold season and we are more indoors, we are more around other influences that are detrimental for the body. And therefore, we need to really do everything possible to balance our immune system. Those herbs that I'm going to show you contain a substance that's called beta-glucan, and this beta-glucan is actually very balancing and nourishing on the tissues and organs that actually produce, differentiate, and dispatch immune cells. Many people have heard of Chaga. Chaga mushroom is actually a parasitic mushroom that grows on birch trees. And it's not exactly parasitic, it's a symbiotic mushroom, I should say. So actually both parties benefit from that relationship, and therefore Chaga is able to grow on live birch trees, as you can see here. And the concentration of beta-glucans is quite high in Chaga, and many people know about Chaga mushroom being used for cancer, to improve the prognosis of cancer treatments. And Chaga mushroom is very good for keeping the inflammatory processes at bay in the system. And I already talked about the importance of really paying attention to that. And Chaga mushroom is also a very good deep immune tonic. So how would you ever want to use Chaga? You can buy the chunks of Chaga, and then you are going to brew it for quite a long time. It's a good idea to pre-soak Chaga. So that means that it needs to be chopped up a little bit so that the surface is more exposed. Then you are going to pre-soak that in cold water and brew beautiful strong tea from Chaga. You can actually do that about 2 to 3 times from the same batch of the material. So never throw it out after the first extraction. Always try to maximize the potency and the usefulness of your Chaga. And then if you want to, you can put in a little bit of homemade almond milk. That's completely permissible, because remember, we are talking here about nourishing effects. So we can actually use nourishing foods together with some of those herbs that we would use for the best synergistic effect. So the next is Rishi mushroom. And we actually do see chaga in our forests here. I always harvest my own. And the Rishi mushroom is not as common, but quite common in our local woods as well. Ganoderma lucidum. Why lucidum? Because it's shiny. It's beautiful, shiny. Sometimes it's called lacquer mushroom because it's beautiful, shiny. Look at the surface. It's just absolutely beautiful. And in the Chinese traditional medicine, it is actually considered the mushroom of longevity. You actually see it in Oriental artwork a lot of times in their paintings. They actually oftentimes portray these mushrooms as really a symbol of longevity so that they bring good luck to their art pieces, so that their art pieces will have a long life in the community as well. So reishi mushroom is again an excellent deep immune tonic, strengthens again the tissues and organs that produce immune cells. And reishi mushroom is also very excellent for strengthening the lung tissue, the respiratory tissue. So very important to remember if any kind of respiratory problems are the history of a person and they need to strengthen the tissue, reishi mushroom is very appropriate for that. We will use reishi mushroom very similar way as we will use chaga. So again, very strong, long brewed extraction would be recommended, and about 3 times a day. Another very important deep immune tonic is Astragalus. Astragalus is also an Oriental origin root, and this root is very important immune regulator. It strengthens all immunity. It strengthens the spleen as well, which is very much involved in generating healthy immune cells. And astragalus can be viewed as a surface immune stimulant as well. So it does have immediate effect on the body. It stimulates the immune cells to action as well. So I just wanted to honor one of the local producers of our herbal medicines. We at IHN don't usually recommend specific products, but I am taking the liberty here to introduce a few of the products that may be very well combined together. So we have a herbal company, which is a local company here in Toronto called Lyriditas, and they produce beautiful herbal elixirs, tinctures, and medicines for practitioners. So all the naturopaths in the city that use herbal medicine in their practice actually get their products from Viriditas. And in that beautiful deep immune activation tincture, we have a lot of these mushrooms that I was talking about already. These mushrooms that contain these immune stimulating beta glucans. So a lot of these mushrooms that are actually responsibly harvested locally. There is also licorice involved here because licorice is a great immune balancer as well, and it is a good balancer for the adrenals, for the endocrine system as well. And we already talked about the profound connection between the immune system and the endocrine system. Then we have Eleutherococcus, which is Siberian ginseng. So one of the ginsengs that are specifically or is specifically used for the immune system is actually the Siberian ginseng. So it is included here as well. And then we have more mushrooms, and we also have ascorbic acid, which of course is used as a preservative here, but vitamin C, ascorbic acid, has a very good immune activity as well. So then here is another beautiful herb that many people do not know about. And I wanted to put it in the spotlight today because sometimes these medicines, especially Chaga and Rishi and some of the other combinations, can be quite expensive. And people sometimes complain it's a little too pricey for me to really support myself for a long period of time with these herbal medicines. So what is the alternative, or what is something that people could use instead that is a little bit more economical? So I wanted to bring in this black seed idea, and black seed comes to us from the Middle East. I actually grow these every year in my garden because it's a beautiful plant. It's absolutely stunning. You've never ever seen a flower that is more complex and more beautiful than the flower of Nigella. So it is actually called um, pearls in the mist because they are jewels in the garden. And then later they produce these beautiful black seeds. And black seed, according to the Prophet Muhammad, is actually so powerful that it can cure anything but death. Literally, it improves the function of the whole body so profoundly. So it improves the circulatory system, it improves the kidney function, it improves the nerve function, the endocrine function, the digestive function, and of course the immune function as well. Black seed is very aromatic. So if you were to taste some of these seeds, and if I had you here with me today, I would have pulled the black seed from my cupboard and you would be all tasting it, and you will be reconfirming, yes, this is something very aromatic. This is something that could work in my digestive system. I can see that my digestion would much improve through this beautiful aromatic influence. And you can buy them as such in either East Indian stores or in Persian stores. So ask for black seed or nigella, or sometimes these black seeds are also called black cumin or wild onion seed sometimes as well. And in Hindi, it is called kalunji. So it goes by many different names, and that's why we herbalists always want to really refer to the scientific names. So here, if you use Nigella sativa, everybody understands that, and there will be no mistakes. So Nigella black seed is excellent to use as seed itself. And how would you use it? I actually use it in cooking. So when I roast vegetables, for instance, or I bake my squash or bake my sweet potato or whatever it is, I would actually sprinkle the black seed right on top. And it's beautifully aromatic, excellent taste, and of course it improves digestion as well. And as you start assimilating some of the compounds, you are actually going to benefit from the immune boosting properties as well. So that's one way. In the Middle East, they oftentimes sprinkle those black seeds on their breads that they make, on their flat breads. And you may have seen that actually in ethnic stores. And they oftentimes also include it in desserts, interestingly enough. Much like cardamom is used in the East Indian cuisine, and they use cardamom seeds, which are also black, in their desserts, Nigella is oftentimes used in the Middle Eastern desserts as well. So we can obtain Nigella, and we can of course obtain them from um, internet orders as well. There is a company, Star West Botanicals, that has good quality Nigella seeds, so organic Nigella seeds. And so you can investigate about that. And a pound of these seeds is going to cost you about $15, maybe not even that. And that lasts a long time. That will last one person or a whole family. This will definitely be good for about 2 years if they want to use it both in cooking and to support their immunity. So it would be very, very economical suggestion. We also sometimes use the oil itself, and we have a company here in Ontario, Activation Products, that produce very good quality Nigella oil. So the Nigella oil can be used therapeutically for asthma. There is a good clinical evidence that Nigella actually works beautifully on asthma. It opens the airways and prevents the asthma attacks, and it is also very strongly anti-inflammatory on the airways so that they are not as affected. So this is another suggestion how to build strong immunity. But of course, these deep immune tonics are going to work over time. And that's why it's very important to start them at the beginning of the cold season so that we have some building um, time in the body for these substances to actually kick into gear and start balancing our immune system. So, what if we get sick and we need to stimulate our immune cells to activity so that they can start doing a better job clearing the pathogens, clearing the infections? So we use surface immune stimulants. So these are used for acute infections. So they will stimulate a short-term increase in the activity of various components of the immune system, obviously the immune cells, but also the various cells and substances that are instrumental in providing communication pathways between the immune cells. So we have various interleukins and various interferons and various other communicating substances that are also stimulated by these surface immune stimulants. But remember, we can stimulate only something that's already in the system. So if we have built a good arsenal of our immune cells that are just standing ready in the body, and then we use the surface immune stimulants, we will actually stimulate these cells into action and we can clear the infection very fast in the body. So it is important to use regularly the deep immune tonics, and then in the event that we actually do get sick, we can resolve the infection very effectively and in a very short period of time. So we need to use them immediately, immediately at the onset of the symptoms. You know how it is. You feel a little run down. You feel a little out of sorts. You cannot really put a finger on what's exactly wrong with you, but you are fatigued, you don't have appetite, things start bothering you, people start bothering you, and you just feel a little out of sorts, and you know something is coming on. So in that event, you already want to start using these surface immune stimulants, and that means that you actually want to have them on hand in your house already. Some of them you already have, as I'm going to suggest and as I'm going to go through my list, you are going to realize that a lot of these herbs and medicines you already have in your spice cabinet, and that's perfect. So we need to start using them immediately, and we use them for the duration of the viral infection. So that would be for a week. That is usually the course these infections run, or up to 10 days. And we can pulse them several times as well. What do we mean by that? We actually mean that we are going to take a little break from them. because you have stimulated your cells, but when they get exhausted, of course, there is nothing more to stimulate in the body. So it's a good idea to give the body a break so that it can recover, replenish, re-nourish, and then we can start taking those surface immune stimulants again for about another week to prevent recurrence. Because oftentimes people get sick in the season a few times because they don't give themselves enough recovery time. We are all guilty of that. We sort of think, okay, I'm already better, so I don't have to take this medicine anymore. Things are already better. And we start getting engaged in our daily activities and in our jobs. And we get stressed because we missed some time of work. So we need to catch up, and we need to catch up with all our other duties. And we burn ourselves out very quickly, and we get sick again. So to prevent that, it's a great idea to actually exercise very excellent self-care after the infection is resolved. First of all, through nutrition, lifestyle, exercise, and all those various ways we can support our body. And then, of course, we build up through nutrition, and then we can start using these herbs for another week so that we know that the infection is not going to come back. So, some of the beautiful examples. Echinacea is our own North American herb. I have shown you so far most of the exotic ones. So let's come home. Let's see what is in our backyard. Because a lot of people grow echinacea actually in their flower gardens. Echinacea is very beautiful. And in a pinch, if you really didn't have anything else, you can just go digging under your echinacea plants and digging some of these roots and using them. Sure, yeah, that would be nice. And it could be done in emergency situations. But normally we have access to medicines, and we can leave our beautiful flowers growing in our garden, and we can just get some echinacea tincture or echinacea root in a herb shop or in a health food store. So echinacea is very famous for resolving viral infections because it stimulates the interferon, which actually interferes with the proliferation of viruses. Echinacea also warms up the system, liquefies mucus in the system, which is really important because a lot of these infections are actually, especially the modern ones, the current ones, are associated with very stagnant mucus in the body. And when this stagnant mucus sits in the respiratory system, it's very difficult to eliminate, and it causes a lot of prolonged suffering because it cannot be effectively removed, and it causes a lot of energy, a lot of reserves to be expended from the body. So people get fatigued and really to the point of exhaustion because these infections can drag for a long time. So we want to use herbs that have resolving effect in the body, which actually can cut through the mucus, liquefy the mucus so that it can be effectively eliminated. And echinacea is very excellent for that. It stimulates circulation in the body as well. And the better the circulation, the better the elimination. So if you don't remember anything from today, please remember at least this. The better the circulation, the better the elimination, and the better the metabolism in the system as well. And all these functions are actually very helpful for clearing viral infections. So echinacea is leading the list of my herbal medicines here. And then we have elecampane, which is very useful for resolving lung infections, especially. It has this specificity that it does address the lung tissue. A lot of these herbs have very specific affinities to various systems and organs, and elecampane has this beautiful affinity to the respiratory system. And oftentimes, because of elecampane, we also use the root, and notice it is actually from the same family. So we have Echinacea and elecampane from the composite family. Look at the flowers. They are composite, meaning that there are many petals per flower. And elecampane is excellent for respiratory infections, as we already said. Beautiful antiviral that is also very local to us is elderberry and flower. And then here is a beautiful remedy that is actually very resolving in the system. It's very traditional, very pioneer actually in our area. The pioneers would use it very often for infections because it very much resolves the dampness in the body. And then we have other circulatory stimulants that are excellent for resolving dampness, cold dampness in the body as well. I was talking about the stagnant mucus that can sometimes affect the system, especially the respiratory system. And of course, ginger and all the other chai spices are actually very excellent for resolving stagnation, mucus, and stimulating circulation in the body. Remember, the better the circulation, the better the elimination of these pathogens from the system. And then we have something that we definitely have in the spice rack, and that's oregano. Some people use the oregano oil. I don't really recommend it because it can be a bit too strong. You can just brew strong oregano tea, and it would be very effective for resolving infections, viral infections, especially in the body. And then, of course, relative to oregano is garden thyme. We all have that in our spice rack as well. Here is another beautiful resolving and also diaphoretic herb, meaning that this is great for fevers. So when fever sets in, we use elder and yarrow, oftentimes together. Yarrow also comes from the composite family. So a lot of these herbs that we talk about today actually do come from the composite family. And here is something that I would like to make perhaps our last herb for today, ground ivy. And this is literally a weed in a lot of people's lawns. And I see people pulling that out of the lawns all the time. And sometimes I actually do talk to them and I ask them, do you actually know that this is a valuable medicinal that you are considering a weed and that you are pulling out of your garden? Do you really know about this? Because ground ivy has a great, again, antiviral effect, and it is great for especially respiratory conditions as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Eva.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us, and all the best.